Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another predictions video. And in today's video, I'm going to be predicting the Davis versus Lemos fight. And so if you're new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Like it if you do indeed like the video, and let's get straight into it. So going into this fight, Davis is 11-0 with 7 KOs, and Lemos is 29-1 with 19 KOs. This fight is a 10-round fight in the lightweight division. Davis's last fight was a win via unanimous decision versus Madueno, and Lemos's last fight was a loss via unanimous decision versus Hitchens. Davis is 5'9" and Lemos is 5'5.5". And to speak a bit more about what I've just been saying, like I mentioned, this is a 10-rounder, so it's a step down, I suppose, in rounds for Lemos, but it's Davies carrying on his progression, and in this time, him being the main focus, the main attention for pretty much the first time in his career. He's got this big homecoming to Norfolk, and so, you know, like I say, it's all eyes on him, all attention on him. It's him and his brothers representing, of course, his hometown, and you know, with Kelvin and Keon as well. Keon making his debut, Kelvin progressing a bit more of his fights. It's nice to see the Davies kind of family being put on notice, and kind of in general showing their prospect status between the three of them. Obviously, Keyshawn is the one who's progressing the most, the one who's achieved the most so far in their career, and the one who, to be fair, is progressing very well and has been looking very impressive in his recent performances. And you know, he's got this prospect early hype, and you know, you see a lot of fighters have this early hype, and coming from the amateurs, he had a lot of expectations upon him, and so far he has delivered. He's not really come stuck in any of the fights in which he's been progressed through, and there's been a lot of quite tough tests in which have and could have caused problems for him, but you know, he's been able to get through them relatively well so far, and of course he has that pressure upon him more so than ever now in this fight. Obviously, it's going to be interesting to see how he deals with that, if he's able to cope with that, if he's able to manage that relatively well. And in general, the lightweight division is a tough division, and with some of the names also around coming up, there is some good talent involved that's also coming up as well. I mean, we've got Abdullah Mason, just to name one name, who's on the undercard of this, and in general it's a very good undercard, which I'm going to touch more upon in just a moment. But like I say, there's this new talent in the lightweight division from America, and Davis is part of that, and this lightweight division has always been a tough top division, and it continues to be so. And Davies is, as the one who's kind of leading the way as this talent, he's going to have to again put on a very good performance against a very tough top competitor in Lemos, who, to be honest, is unfortunate with the result not going his way against Hitchens. It was a close fight. I definitely don't think it should have been unanimous decision for Hitchens. I think it was, like I say, a close contest where Hitchens was able to utilise his jab relatively well and was tying up quite a lot to perhaps stop Lemos's momentum a bit, but Lemos was having a lot of success, basically just being all over Hitchens and being hard to stop, hard to slow down, and continued with a high tempo throughout the whole of the fight. And Hitchens now has moved on to a world title fight, and you know, perhaps I would have liked to have seen a rematch between the two of them. Perhaps we still will. I mean, this is a return to the lightweight division for Lemos, but Lemos has come in just within the past couple of hours. He's come in 6 pounds overweight, I believe it is, so, or 5 or 6 pounds overweight, and that's quite a big kind of step overweight, and it's not something in which typically you see happen often. It's not really something in which you can kind of miss when you're cutting weight and everything like that. You don't normally miss out on 5 or 6 pounds. So I don't necessarily know if he's caring too much. I don't necessarily know if he's coming in there with this kind of underdog mindset. Perhaps his mindset is he's just going to come in there and not really care what the result is. He's just going to come in there for a firefight and for a war. And perhaps that's what we think might happen. It's going to make it, I think, more entertaining. I think he's not abiding by any rules, and he's doing his own thing. I mean, I'm never going to encourage a fighter to come in overweight. I think it is dangerous for them to do so, but nonetheless, I think it's still good to see him get this opportunity to fight on a big stage again, and he's probably going to move up to super lightweight division after this fight, no matter what happens. And also, like I say, on this undercard, there is some great names to be involved in this card in general. It's great to see, like I say, all these big names being involved. I mean, Norman Jr. was meant to be on it. Of course, everything that's happened with him getting injured has ruled him out of it, and it is a bit of a shame, but it was weird to see him on it in general. I mean, obviously, he kind of priced himself out, and now he was meant to be on this card. Obviously, then got injured, so I don't necessarily know what's happening with him now as a top-ranked fighter, as quite I suppose, a guy trying to make himself as a big name. I don't know why he would have wanted to fight in the Davies undercard anyway. I think it was a big step down of what he could have had, but nonetheless, of course, we're not seeing him. But who we are seeing, Troy Isley, I think that's going to be a good fight. Of course, Abdullah Mason, somebody who's really got a lot of hype and momentum with him currently. He's going to, of course, be on the show as well, and that's going to create more entertainment, I'm sure. And I wouldn't even mind if they did a face-off between Davis and Mason after the fights. Perhaps we might see that. I don't necessarily know. And then, like I mentioned, both Kelvin and Keon as well. So, like I mentioned, big names, a good, nice top rank undercard. And yeah, to speak more about the main event individually, the fighters, Davies. Of course, he has fast hands. You'd think he's got the faster hands than that of Lemos. He can fight on the front or the back foot and can do so well. I think he can deal with being on the back foot better than that of Hitchens could, and I think we'll perhaps have to thrive on the back foot a little bit. He's got good, sharp counters, and with the timing and accuracy in which he had a lot of success with that against Maduerno, against Pedraza. Maduerno, that fight was a strange fight in general. I mean, everything that happened between the two of them during that fight was just a bit weird, but nonetheless, he was able to, like I say, land counters well and pick off his shots very nicely. He's good at extending his punches, not and bringing them back as well, not leaving his punches out there for too long, and also, like I say, extending his punches, not committing to his shots. He's got strong combinations when he utilizes it, changes levels very well, finds openings, finds gaps well. I think he's slows opponents' momentum with the counters that he throws. So perhaps he's going to be able to slow Lemos if he gains any momentum or gains any speed. He's got very good varied attacks, and in general will go to pretty much all your body. Like I say, with the combinations in which he does throw, he lets his hands go, and he definitely picks you off. To perhaps then list some negatives things, I suppose, about him. I think stays in range a bit too long at times. Like I say, he extends his punches nicely, but his movement in and out of range isn't always especially amazing. So it means he is getting caught, and he hasn't got great defensive movement. I don't think he moves his head that well. I think he drops his guard. I think he can be quite flat-footed at times. He's a lot of the time just kind of walking backwards if he is taking steps backwards, and it means that he can get caught with something like an onrushing Lemos, who is going to be in your face explosive, and when he does come forwards, rushes forwards. If Davies is just walking back, then he's definitely going to get caught with shots. I think perhaps he can force physicality, Davies, and I think if he does that against Lemos, he's going to struggle. And I do believe he drops his guard. I don't necessarily think he's got his insanely good movement. Like I say, I think he's quite flat-footed. I think perhaps he could be overconfident coming into this fight. He seems very confident, as always. He seems like he's got a lot to say, and as a prospect, that's going to build hype about you and build attention, and perhaps in that aspect is a good thing. But perhaps he is overlooking Lemos and is overconfident, like I mentioned, and I think in general he does lose focus and can get drawn to being the more entertaining type fighter and not really kind of doing the fundamentals in which you need to do to succeed. He can get drawn into a fight and stand and trade. That's why I say that he can force the physicality a bit, and if he's doing that versus Lemos, he might struggle. He, in my opinion, has to respect Lemos as a fighter, and he doesn't always respect his opponents. I don't think he always necessarily turns into his shots that nicely, and I believe that he continuously, quite often, has his chin in the air, and I think that can definitely affect things, because by him doing that, it's just meaning that I think he is going to get caught with shots, and he's got a nice uppercut. I think he can catch Lemos with that continuously, but I think Lemos can catch him with shots continuously due to his, like I say, defensive tendencies to do stuff that just isn't smart, in my opinion. But to speak about Lemos as a fighter, he's a high tempo type fighter who's continuously in your face and is going to continue to put on the pressure the entire fight. And I respect him as a fighter. Like I say, I suppose that respect has dropped a bit by him not making weight, but in general, I respect him as a fighter. He's just conventionally not going to let you get comfortable and not going to fight to your rhythm. He's an away type fighter in which you really don't really want to be fighting, and I respect Davis for taking this fight, especially for a homecoming fight. He really didn't have to do that, but I think Lemos is going to be a very tough guy to deal with. Like I say, he didn't let you get comfortable. He's well conditioned, so he definitely is able to fight the full distance well, and was able to do so well against Hitchens and really pushed the pace the entire fight versus Hitchens. He throws from all angles. He pretty much punches everywhere, and including the body, in which he does have good body work. He's got a high output. He's aggressive, cuts off the ring with a tight guard as well. So he isn't particularly easy to land on. He's got a good balance as well. I think he's got quite a wide, compact but nice stance. He imposes himself physically, and like I say, if Davies versus Lemos are going to have a physicality off, I think Lemos is probably going to win in that aspect. Negatives about him, I think he can be quite wild when he's swinging, and he can be made to miss. And Davies, if he can see this and make it predictable and get his movement going, in which isn't, like I said, it's not awful, but if he can get it going, he can make Lemos look silly at times. I think Hitchens was able to do that, and he, like I say, can be there made to miss. He can be smothered, and if he does get smothered, he can't really get off his work very well. He's got quite a limited game plan, so I think if things aren't going well on the attacking sense for him, there isn't really too much else to his game. He squares up, he chases you around the ring. I think he loads up on his shots. I don't think he sets up his shots using the jab at all. I don't really think he utilises his jab that well, and if he does, I think he struggles to get in range with it. He overcommits to quite a lot of his work. He can get caught with a jab, and like I say, he can also get caught with an uppercut in general. That's where you can have a lot of success with Lemos, or landing on Lemos, because if you get through his guard, then you can catch him with them straight shots. His head movement is limited. If he waits too long, a lot of the time he's not waiting, he is rushing in, but there is a little times where he'll have slight breaks, but that's when he does often get caught with shots. He can also jump in and rush in. Like I say, he does rush in, but like I say, he's also jumping in, so if he gets timed with a shot whilst he's jumping in, he's definitely going to get probably hurt and possibly a flash knockdown by doing that. His timing isn't excellent, and he's also quite flat-footed as well. Davis is the favourite for this fight, and I think that Lemos is going to win via TKO in round 10. It's perhaps a bold thing to say, but I believe that Lemos' front foot pressure is going to catch Davies out, and like I say, if Davies is continually walking back, I think he might be able to time Lemos with shots, but I don't necessarily know if he's going to be able to get Lemos out of there, and if he can't get Lemos out of there, or if he can't hurt Lemos when he's rushing in, then I think Lemos is going to put it on him, and Davis is going to struggle. I think perhaps Davis might win a few early rounds through boxing, but when Lemos gets into his rhythm and continues with this high pace, then I think Lemos is going to win, like I say, and stop him late into the fight. I think it's going to be a surprising stoppage, and that's going to ruin the homecoming for Davis realistically, and it's just my opinion, but I think that's what's going to happen. I think it's a very tough fight to take. I think it's a fight in which it's going to really progress him if he does win, and it's a very big win for him if he does get, but I don't think he will. And then who he could go on to fight next? Lemos? Davies again? Perhaps might be another option. It wouldn't surprise me if Top Rank, with Davies being such a big name for them, would want to run that fight back again, but necessarily I'm not too sure. Or he moves back up to super lightweight. Like I said, I think he probably is naturally a super lightweight. I mean, as shown through the fact he didn't make weight. And then he could fight the winner of Hitchens versus Power. Of course, like I say, it was a very close fight versus Hitchens last time, so they could run that back if he beats Power. If not, Power versus Lemos would be a good fight. Or Matias. Matias would be a good fight, of course, coming off the loss versus Power. I still think has a bit left to give. He's fighting, I believe, this weekend as well on like a lower promotion fight show, and so that could, if he wins that, that could make the fight make sense. Now he doesn't have a promoter himself, Mattis, after being let go by Matchroom. There's fights there available for him in the lightweight division, in the super lightweight division, but like I say, he has to get through Davis first, and like I say, I think he's going to get that surprising win. But yeah, that's it for today's video. I hope you did enjoy. Like if you did, like this, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.